7, reorganize the string. So for this problem, we are giving a string S. We're gonna rearrange the characters of S so that any two adjacent characters are not the same. So we're gonna return any possible rearrangement of S or return an empty string if not possible. So let's check the first example. So for the first example, we have AAB. So we can have the A because A is the most common element. So we're gonna choose A, B, and A. So this is our valid result. Can we choose B first? No, we cannot. If we choose B first, we're gonna have AA, and we cannot have such kind of situation. And for this example, definitely A is the most common element. We're gonna choose AB, and now we have 2A. That is not possible. So it's gonna be an empty string. So for this problem, definitely we're gonna use the greedy idea to solve the problem. So first of all, we're gonna choose the most common element. So for example, if in the first example, if A is the most common element, now we're gonna prepare the even index. So for example, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the odd index. First of all, we're gonna put the most common characters inside the even index. So for example, this is gonna be a A, and this is gonna be a A. And what left behind is B, and then we're gonna put B inside the odd index. So the final result is gonna be ABA. Yeah. So this is the basic idea, and actually this is the greedy idea. If there is a valid answer, but in the second example, we don't have a valid answer because even though we can have something like ABA, but we cannot have another A. If we have another A, definitely it's gonna be false. So we're gonna analyze this case. Yeah. So actually, there's going to be a formula. So for example, if the most common element of the A equal to 3, so the maximum going to equal to 3. Yeah. So we're going to use this formula. So if this maximum value 3 more than the total element 4, going to be the total element 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, minus the maximum element 3, and plus 1. Yeah. So the maximum element is 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 3 is more than 2. So if this is true, we're gonna return an empty string. This means it is not possible. How does this mean? Because normally for this situation, we can have something like ABA, but we cannot have another A. If we have ABA, this is the limit case. This is the limit. We can only have something like ABA. So for the next one, we can have B, but we cannot have A. So what's going to happen is this, for this ABA. So it's going to be the maximum element, going to more than the total element, going to be N, minus the maximum element. Yeah, normally it should be like this. So the maximum element for this ABA going to be 2, and this N going to be 3 minus 2 gonna be 1. Yeah. So this is a 2 more than 1. Yeah. So this is a 2, 3 minus 2 is 1. 2 more than 1. This is just the limit case, but this is valid. So instead of that, we need to plus another one. So if we plus another one, yeah, so how can I explain? So the maximum element, yeah, let me just analyze the valid case. So for valid case, we have something like ABA. So the maximum element, most common element A is 2, and N is 3. 3 minus 2, it is 1. 2 more than 1, we need to check this gonna be invalid. Yeah, but currently 2 is more than 1. It is valid, so we have to plus 1. Yeah, so in this case 2 and this is 1 plus 1, it's gonna be 2. It's gonna be more than and equal to 2. This is why we need to plus another 1. So only in this case we can return an empty string, because definitely it is invalid. Yeah, I hope you understand it. Because currently if we only have ABA, it's going to be 2, 3, 2. So this mx is going to more than n minus the maximum common element. So this is okay. Yeah, but we are not going to do something like that. We have to use another a. So if we were to use another a, what's gonna happen? Definitely, this gonna be always mx gonna more than n minus mx plus another one. Yeah, this is just a mathematical formula. I think if we use some examples, definitely we can find this kind of situation. So the maximum element, if this is more than n minus the maximum element, but this is just valid. If we need to plus another one, if this is still more than that, it's gonna be an empty string. So definitely, and in this example, this is exactly what we need. So the maximum element, most common element is gonna be 3. This is 4 minus 3 plus 1. It is 2. So 3 more than 2. It is just this kind of situation. So definitely, it's gonna be an empty string. Yeah. So otherwise, if we don't have this a, it's gonna equal, because the maximum element is gonna be 2, and n gonna be 3 minus 2 plus 1, it's gonna equal. So this is why we're gonna use this kind of formula to check if it's gonna be invalid. We're gonna return an empty string. Otherwise, we're gonna just fill in the element. First of all, we're gonna fill in the index like 0 to 4, and then like the odd index like 1 and 3. Yeah. Now let's just use this kind of idea, the greedy idea, to solve the problem. So we're gonna check the length of the string. It's gonna equal to n, and then we're gonna prepare a string. We're gonna count the string of s, and then we're gonna, in Python we can use the most common. We can check the most common element. So this method we get an array. So inside of the array, it's gonna be a tuple of a character and a counter. So this counter is the most common element. So actually, this array has already been sorted in decreasing order. First one gonna be the character, and the second one gonna be the counter. Now we're gonna check the maximum element. It's gonna be a0 1. So now we can check the formula. If this is more than n minus mx plus 1, we can return an empty string. So as I explained this before, you can just use some examples to check why we're gonna use this kind of formula. Yeah, because n minus mx is the limit case. This is the limit case. We can have something like ABA. But if we have another a, we have to plus a 1, and only in this way we can check it's gonna return an empty string because it is invalid. Now we can prepare the final result. So it's gonna be an array times n. Now we just need to fill in the array. So for any character and counter inside array A, and for anything inside the range of the counter, and we just need to fill in it. So result I gonna equal to C, and I gonna be starting from the even index 0, and I gonna plus equal to 2. So if I more than and equal to n, this is gonna be the length of the array. So I can reset the I to the odd index, and then the I gonna plus 2. We can fill in the odd index. So after that, we just need to connect them together. So empty dot join the result gonna be the final return. Let me just run it to check if it works. Now as you can see it works, and let me just submit it. Now as you can see it passed for all testing cases, and it's pretty fast. And I think this is a better way to solve the problem. Even though we can use the max heap in Python to solve the problem, but that's gonna be, yeah, for programming that's gonna be a little bit difficult. And in this way, it is also the greedy idea, but it is much cleaner and much easier to solve. And the time complexity is gonna be O(n). Actually, we just need to check each character one by one. I think that's all about it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.